Brian, is this my room?
This is. Before we get started, if you don't mind, I would love the privilege of being able to, now keep in mind, I know that I'll be reading a little bit of your bio that you sent me, but I'd love the privilege to be able to present you.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for being here today. This is Dr. Beverly A. Browning. She's often known as Dr. Bev, but she is a grant writing expert and the founder of the Grant Writing Training Foundation. She has over 50 years of experience and helped clients secure more than $750 million in grants. So, yeah, we're over a billion, folks. We are over a billion for sure. Put her 750 with my measly 20, and we're jamming in there. She has government grants, education grants, healthcare grants. Fortune 500 have dealt with them. She does live interactive courses, including a 15-week coaching and mentoring program, and a 4-week course on the business side of grant writing for freelancers. So if you want to hit her up, she'll tell you at the end how to get in touch with her. Um, she is the prolific author of 48 grant related publications, including 7 editions of the Grant Writing for Dummies. Her work combines deep expertise with commitment to empowering grant professionals, nonprofit leaders, and governmental agencies nationwide. Ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to introduce Dr. Beverly Browning.
Thank you so much, Brian. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon if you're in a Eastern time zone and it's getting close to that time. I'm going to do a screen share and move some things over here. All right. Welcome to Grant Funding Research Tips and Skills. There will be liberal time for Q&A at the end of my session. So key topics I'll cover: how to identify and access the best public and private grant databases, common pitfalls in grant research and how to avoid them, proven techniques for targeting funders that align with your mission or with your client's mission or your employer's mission, tools and resources to stay organized and save time, and then key criteria to evaluate funding opportunities quickly and effectively. So why effective grant research matters? Well, one, 80% of our role in any area of grant writing, proposal writing, contract bids, 80% is devoted to research. The other 20% is writing and editing. So having effective, time-managed grant research will save you time to actually research best practices and the other things that you need to write an award-winning funding request. So why it matters on taking grant research more serious. One, we all want to increase our chances of getting funded. No one wants to spend day in, day out, month after month, writing proposals that have a high rejection rate. And a lot of times we can't find out why if it's not a government application. We don't get that peer review feedback in quite great detail back from private sector funders. So we need to be sure the first time before we start writing, did we make a good match? Is this going to work out? By targeting our funders specifically against our mission-focused planning purpose and reason for being as a grant applicant organization, it helps us focus on those opportunities that really fit the organization. And obviously, it saves valuable time and resources. Before we had all of these grandiose grant research and grant management databases, because I've been here a long time, you can see gray hair, it used to take me a 40-hour week to do a comprehensive funding search project for a client, not grant writing, just getting out there and hitting all the standard database and available to look for funding specific to whatever my client's mission statement, vision, expansion ideas were all about. And everything was done manually, and it did take, again, a full week of my time. With everything we have at our fingertips now, this can be done literally in minutes, hours. It doesn't even take a full day to qualify 8 to 10 potential funders because we have all this information in front of us. So let's take a look at what does it take to focus? What does it take to be effective? Especially if you're with an organization that can afford a grant research database subscription. Maybe you're still using Google or some other search engine to look for potential funding sources. So identifying grant resources. Types of grant funders, and this obviously is for anybody here who's a beginner, and I suspect all of you are at the expert level, but I did this from the beginning just so everybody would be clear. We have government grant dollars that start at the federal level and trickle down to the state and then to local units of government who then may have or may have had community development block grant funds where they issued an RFP for grant applications and social service programs and workforce development, and nonprofits had a chance to bid on that. There are also private foundations. My own foundation is a private non-operating foundation. It's the Grant Writing Training Foundation. There are many other private foundations. Many of those are formed like family foundations, where you will see the name of a family in the name of the actual foundation when you look at their profile online. There are also myriad unlimited corporate giving programs. When we think of corporate giving, we want to think of any banks that have foundations and local corporate giving programs. Major retailers, obviously Walmart has a local corporate giving program or community giving program, as do many other major corporations. And then finally, the real backbone of community-based funding are our community foundations, and they started out a long time ago with a lot of support from the William K. Kellogg Foundation. And with that, community foundations have grown. There is a directory of community foundations now. So, for instance, based in Goodyear, which is part of the Phoenix metropolitan area, and we have the Arizona Community Foundation. And then there are subsidiaries. There's one in northern Arizona, and there's one or affiliates, but all a part of the greater whole. The Community Foundation focuses on getting community or proposals or a bunch of other names. It could even be a notice of funding opportunity, NOFO versus NOFA. Okay. I also sit on the advisory board for Grantex AI. That's their website. Grantex is their formal name. I subscribed to Instrumental for years. It was the backbone. It was what I had my whole consulting team on when we needed to have a subscription. And even with the foundation directory, it was hard to drill down, but it is still widely used and affordable and available at large-scale public libraries and university libraries around the United States, where you can go into the reference department, make sure they have a licensing agreement with Candid, which is the oversight corporation over the foundation directory now, and you'll be given free access to use it there. Just take a USB drive so you can download all of your findings, all of the profiles for the funding sources, and then review those when you get back at home or in your home office or regular office. I did receive a free subscription to Grant Station when I belonged to the Arizona Association of Nonprofits. They've now changed their name to something else. And also, it was a free subscription through the Grant Professionals Association, which I ended my membership there earlier this year. And then finally, look at your state and local government portals. There are a lot of states have actually gotten their act together, and they have a main portal where you can search for grants available from every state grant making agency. However, there are still some states where you have to go to the main site, go to the governor's link, and then look at individual departments within the administration in order to see what's out there. So not every state or territory has this combined database where you can look across the state at every state department to see what's available. Once you decide what you're going to use, it's important to set up alerts. So if you can subscribe to a newsletter or a monthly or weekly or even daily grants alert system, that's great to have that notification come right into your email inbox. And of course, save those things that are relevant and put other things in a view later folder. You never know when you're going to have to go back, and you don't want to have to do that search over again. Explore free database options, as well as those databases that offer free trials where you have a chance to look at it, try it out, do a preliminary search. You may not have full access to all of the characteristics of that database, but it will be enough to help you determine if you want to subscribe or not. So, targeting the right funders. So I wrote grant applications, I wrote for over 50 years. I stopped writing 3 years ago, mainly because I was tired of the back-to-back deadlines and the onslaught of requests to write federal grants, which require labor-intensive investment on our part. You already know that as grant writers, grant consultants, proposal specialists. So I decided to just go into training. I love training more. I get to set my own schedule with my own training, and the other training is a pretty much set schedule. So I like that. Being on deadline with federal grants was horrendous. I will tell you that I was used to writing a complete federal grant application in 1 week, sometimes less. So I could churn out 4 a month, but over the years, you just go into burnout. And some of you that have been out there for a while in this field, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Labor intensive. And yes, that was my specialty. I did write foundation and corporate, but my love was in the federal grant seeking arena because it was always a mental challenge to figure out what they really wanted to see, how they wanted to see it, and to understand it from both a writing side and a peer review side. I have peer reviewed for federal grants for the Department of Education, Department of Transportation, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance, Bureau of Indian Affairs, as well as a few state agencies. So seeing what other people write, knowing what's right and wrong, helped me to become a better grant writer, a better grant seeker. It helped me to look at a grants.gov synopsis or overview of the funding that's available and spot the red flags just in the synopsis to know if I should recommend that my client proceed with an application or halt. And that was only part of the research. There was a lot to do to determine if federal funding was the right way to go. And it wasn't just about the application, the number of grant applications awarded, the grant ceiling or the floor, the high amount you could ask for, the low amount you could ask for. It also had to do with where the money was awarded previously for 5 years, what states did it go to, what federal regions were those states in, where's my client, what region are they in, what state are they in, what's their chance of getting this money? Has anyone else in their region or state received this in the past 5 years? Because federal money has to be equally distributed across, or used to be equally distributed across the federal regions. And with that, I could look at that, and I could also look at the legislation, which is mentioned in the announcement. It tells you what legislation created the funding opportunity. I could go back and Google the legislation and look to see who sat on the allocation panel for, let's just say, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Who sat on it from the Senate and who sat on it from the House of Representatives? And what political party were those individuals? Because the dollars are always going to go to their states first. They don't sit on those panels or committees to review activities, legislation, funding priorities, and then recommend a budget set allocation for the new federal fiscal year without some sort of recoup coming their way. Okay, so is this a fair process? If you haven't figured it out yet, no, it's not a fair process. But if you understand how to research all the little things behind the scene, you can target the right funding opportunities, especially at the government level. But you have to do a lot of homework on where did the money go, who sat on the panel. Is my client in a void, an area, a region that will likely get this funding this year if we apply? What are their chances? And what are their relationships with their congressional team members? Because you don't apply for anything at the federal level as a grant-seeking organization, as a grant writer, until you understand the politics of getting funded. And it has a lot to do with that. We can write the best application possible, but if we don't understand what's happening behind the scenes, we are wasting our time. We are spinning our wheels. And I don't know about you, but I never had time to waste. So first of all, targeting the right funders. We have to make sure that the mission of the grant applicant organization is aligned with the funding sources, giving priority, mission, and pattern of giving for the previous grants awarded as well. So we want to review the funder's mission statement, the giving priorities. We want to analyze the past grantee lists. What can we find? And if we can't find previous grantees there, we can always go to a search engine, type in the name of the foundation, and I'll just use Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, okay? Robert Wood Johnson Foundation plus grantees plus, and then start putting in your years from 2019 to 2024 plus 2025. And I use those pluses, they're called Boolean characters, and they help draw it together when I'm doing a search engine search, so I don't get a lot of returns that don't mean anything. What am I looking for? What did they get to before? Who's doing the same thing as my client, or their location in their state, their county, their city? What was the program? How much was awarded? Was it near the ceiling? Was this the first award that this particular grantee received over the past 5.5 years? Or have they been a continual, what I want to call a continual recurring funder? Always look at that. And then consider the geographic and population focus. Who does this funder want to help? What's their target population for funding? What area have they funded the most in? Education, health, social services, conference attendance, research, startup, seed money, or operating costs, capacity building. What have they funded? Begin to understand the potential funder by knowing the profile, forward and backwards, in and out. We are trying to make sure that the matches we are given in these grant research databases really match what our particular client or employer is looking for, and does it fit what we want to do with the money? Because if not, long shots only get funded when somebody knows somebody, and those calls have been made ahead of time, whether it's a foundation, corporate grant maker, family foundation, or government dollars. Evaluating our funding opportunities. So I look at key criteria. What are the eligibility requirements for grant applicants? For instance, if a Chamber of Commerce came to me, and they are traditionally classified by the Internal Revenue Service as a 501c6 organization, a membership fee-based organization. Okay, I can't apply as a 501c6, not to a lot of these common stream potential funders. But if I ask that person that I'm speaking to at the Chamber of Commerce if they have someplace in their records that they have a 501c3 that was formed a long time ago but doesn't get used very much? Can they check? And while they're checking, guess what? I am logging into my guidestar.org account, which is also part of the Candid corporate system. And I'm looking up to see if the chamber has a foundation that has been filing a postcard return, abbreviated Form 990, a 990 PF. How are they classified? What do they have? Do they have a return here? Are they recognized by the IRS? Has their 501c3 expired because they didn't update it? They didn't file their tax returns. They forgot they had it. People changed over. Administration left, finance left. Now nobody knew that there was a 501c3, and now we find it's dormant or it's been put on hold. So all those things are happening on two ends, my potential clients' end and on my end. I'm doing the same homework, tracking behind them, looking for everything that I can find to see if I can get them to fit the eligibility requirements. How much is the client or employer asking for? What's the amount of funding needed? And what does this look like when I compare it to their total annual operating budget, the one that they're in now for this year and the one that they finished for their most recent fiscal year? And again, I can look that up on GuideStar or on taxworld.org. All those things are available to us. What's the duration of the funding? My client needs a 3-year seed program funded so it can become a program, okay? Now it's just a project on paper. Nothing's been there, no dollars are allocated. So is this a recurring funder, or do I have to look for funding for year 2 and year 3? How does this work? What do the guidelines say? Who can I talk to at the potential funder? Is there a contact person? And one of the things that deters us as grant seekers trying to help our clients is when we find out that they don't accept unsolicited proposals, or the email address starts out at info@abcfoundation.org or foundation@foundation.org, name of the foundation. Okay, I have to dig deeper. Now I'm going to go out there. First, I'm going to Google, because that's my search engine. I'm going to see what I can find out. Okay. Then I'm also going to look at their return, if they have a return, a Form 990 on GuideStar, Candid GuideStar. But I'm also going to go to their website, assuming they have one, and I'm going to look at About Us. Who's on staff? Who's on the board? And I'm going to look for those names in LinkedIn. Okay. I'm going to search for them, and I'm going to request a connection. And once they've connected, because they always do, nobody typically refuses, I'm going to send them a note and let them know I'm working with a client. They are interested in applying to the foundation that you work for, the foundation that you sat on the board for. We clearly understand the guidelines, no unsolicited proposals. How do we get you to learn about us, and how do we learn more about you? Okay, that's it. Now you're going to say, Bev, nobody ever responds to that. Are you crazy? Everybody responds. I am amazed. I have not received any refusals to respond on any of the staff or the board members for a not accepting unsolicited proposals potential funder. Not only that I respond, but they give me little tidbits. If anybody on your client's board knows anybody on our board, that's a way in. You can also ask your client's executive director and board members, executive committee members to request a connection to us via LinkedIn, so we can field questions to them and they can ask us information. I'm only the connector. I am not the spokesperson. I am not going to submit. I am not going to call up the funding source and ask it a bunch of crazy top 10 questions. That is, in my opinion, from a consultant's viewpoint, that's my client's responsibility. And if you are an employee and you work for a nonprofit, a unit of government, and your title is grant writer, You have probably been told that part of your job description is to build relationships, but here's the problem, and the grant writer is building the relationships. Do you know that we have a high turnover in our industry among grant writers? That we leave when we don't get paid enough, leave when we experience burnout, we leave when we don't have a private office, we leave when we never get time off, and we go home and continue working on our laptop, and we're there on the weekend for all hands on board. So, yeah, we're going to look for another job. There is a significantly high turnover among grant writers. When the grant writer leaves, those connections go out the door with the grant writer. Okay, I'm going to repeat that one more time. When the grant writer leaves, whether it's sick leave, maternity leave, I quit, no show, not coming back there again, you folks drove me crazy. When we leave, we take all the connections with us, and the organization is left without the crutch of the grant writer. So who should be rebuilding these relationships? Who should be reaching out? Executive director, development director, and members of the executive committee of the nonprofit governing board. That would be president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Those are the folks that need to build the connections. They're likely to have a duration with the organization. They are higher up. They will command more attention, more respect, and get more information than we as, Jess, the grant writer, would be able to get. Okay. Also use a checklist. It's called a quick fit assessment tool. There are tons of go or no-go grant application assessment tools available via Google. If you want a copy of my assessment tool, you can email me at dummies, dummies, author, author, the number 6, don't type 6 out, it is a number, okay? dummiesauthor6@gmail.com, and I'll send you a copy of my Go No Go assessment for federal and foundation grant seeking. It really makes a difference if you should proceed or not, and if everything is in place in order to increase your chances of winning. You may Google it, it could be out there, somebody could have posted it on the internet, but do have some criteria, do have a checklist, and do make the rules. When I worked for a school district, public school district in Michigan, I was in the grants and development office. I pretty much ran the office, although I had an executive director. But I did not call up any potential funders for our school district or its foundation on my own as the grant writer. I always gave all the information to the vice president of grants and development, my director, to make the contact, to go have lunch with these people, to go over to their office, talk to them, take a packet that I had prepared on the district and all of its programs and its overview of its financial report and the auditor's letter showing we are in good findings on every year for our audit statements, so that there was somebody there representing the district of equal stature. If our title is not executive director, is not development director, is not president, vice president, secretary, or treasurer, we should not be reaching out to build a connection with a potential funder. Point blank. It's the first beginning of, wow. Obviously, they didn't think we were that important because they had the grant writer call us. So think about how that looks from a funding perspective. And I'm the director of my own foundation. And yes, we are a grant-making foundation here in the West Valley of Maricopa County. And I require relationship building before I'll consider any nonprofit for writing a check to at the end of my program's fiscal year. It's just not going to happen if I don't know them personally. Common pitfalls in grant research. Chasing every opportunity. Oh, our board member found this funder and they want you to apply. Okay, does it fit our mission? Are we eligible? What's the history of this funder? What have they funded in the past? When's the deadline? When's the requirement? Because I have no problem. This has happened over the years multiple times. A board member found this and they want you to apply. We know it's 5 o'clock on Friday and you typically don't work weekends, But this is due on Monday by 9 a.m. So I'll need for you to send me a draft by Sunday afternoon so I can send it out to the board. We can look at it, redline it, give it back. You can make all of our edits, finalize it, and then, hey, get it back to us so we can submit this via our board member by Monday morning. Okay, first of all, the answer is let me see how viable this is. Do you have a high chance of getting funded, or is this a long shot? Because if this is a long shot and the board member just heard this through somebody who told this to them from somebody else, the answer is no. That's why my title is consultant. You consult me, you don't direct me. And I'm telling you, this is a waste of your time. And it could be billable time. So are you sure you want to take this when I give you all the odds of you actually getting $1 or not from this funder? So our role, whether we're an employee or a consultant, is to evaluate, weigh the chances, look at every possible detail, dig for the needle in the haystack, and then come back with our opinion with validated evidence of why this is a no-go or why this is a go and I'm on it, I'm going to do it. This is a no-go. We don't have a chance. This is a waste of time and money for the organization to have me pursue this, especially on such a short deadline. It's not that I can't do it, but I don't want to do anything that's not going to get funded because all I have is my name and all you have is your name. You don't have the name of your organization. You have the name that you are using as your professional name and title. When that starts going downhill because you are chasing after lost leaders, your name starts to decline as well. Okay? We can't ignore the funder's history, the preferences, and we have to know the requirements and what's involved before we say yes. There's so many pitfalls in our grant research where, oh, this looks like a great opportunity. I think I can get it done today. It's due tomorrow morning. Think long and hard about that kind of a instantaneous reaction to wanting to get another grant request out the door because you have a quota to meet each year with your employer or with your client. How do we avoid these pitfalls? Well, the short way is just say no. However, we want to keep the grant applicant organization mission focused. We want to double check eligibility before investing our time as grant writers. We want to use our research logs or tracking tools to determine how long are we taking to find this information. So I'm trying to think of the thing that I was using. I can't think of the name of it. It was something like Monday.com, but it wasn't Monday. It was a time tracker. A specific, harvest.org, harvest.org. So whenever, even if I wasn't on hourly, because I rarely worked for hourly unless it was a for-profit organization and I was doing some kind of specialized work for them, not grant research or writing. I would always see how much time it took me to research particular funding opportunities for a client based on their mission, their eligibility. I like to know time on task because once we know time on task, we start looking for solutions to decrease that time on task, not increase it, decrease it. And if we do all this homework and we're still declined, we dig hard and deep and make phone calls, emails, ask questions to try to find out why our application was declined. Why our application was declined. Okay. Staying organized. I am a due diligent time manager. Everything happens on a time. I live by my digital calendar, by Amazon devices, which cue me as to when to log in, when to sign on, when something is due, what I have coming up. I have all kind of alerts set. I have to stay organized because I am a time manager. And while I've never taken a formal project management course or become a certified project manager, my job when I'm taking on the task of writing a grant proposal or application is time management, not just managing my own time, but managing everybody at the table, and that means the grant applicant organization. So if you're an employee, you need your program directors or project managers on board to feed you the most relevant information. You need the most recent evaluations. If it is a matching or cash matching application that you're going after, you need finance on board. Do you have cash on hand? Do you have a budget that shows the breakout of your in-kind or soft cash contribution amounts and percentages off every line item in the organization's general operating budget? Our organization begins with having access to everything we need in a shared server or a shared a desktop workspace like Basecamp or Teams, so we know what is going on. But we're the orchestra. We're the orchestra, and we're playing, and everybody's in it, and we're also the conductor. We're everywhere as grant writers, grant seekers. Tools and resources for staying organized. Grant tracking spreadsheets or software, and there's a ton of software out there for grant management, grant tracking. Okay. Calendar reminders for deadline. I was a stickler when I was doing grant writing for calendar reminders, and I would put them in Basecamp, I think it's Basecamp 3. In Basecamp 3 for my clients, for my team members who were helping with the project. They also flowed over to my own work calendar, to my personal calendar. So I knew at all times, this is coming up. It's due in 24 to 48 hours. Oh, today's the due date. Was it done? Who got it done? Who checked it off? Is it in the system? Who do I need to call? And I am one for chasing down the contact people who have the information but hold off giving it until the last minute to the grant writer. I'm good at chasing them down. One of the things that I require when I take on a client, or if I took a job as a grant writer like I did at the school district, where's the information for the people that I can get this type of information from when they go home at 4 o'clock and I'm still here at 7 o'clock at night closing up this building with the janitor? What are their mobile phone numbers? What are their home addresses? I will drive to somebody's house if I have to, if there's no phone. How do I reach these people? And it's the same way as a consultant. My clients filled out a sheet with their daytime phone number, their evening phone number, their emergency person to contact on staff, and that person's information and title and availability. My clients have to let me know when they're going on vacation, when they're going to go be admitted to the hospital, and it's a planned admission. If it's an emergency admission, there's the call sheet. They call the top person on their team. Their team member has a call sheet that flows down, and I'm on that, and I get to know, hey, the executive director is no longer available. They're out for the next 2 weeks. Our team's on this. We're getting the information that you requested, Dr. Bev. All those things matter in knowing how we can control the organization flow within everything that we touch. Shared folders for team collaboration. Google's okay, but it's not all that sophisticated. You know that, using Google Drive. There are other systems out there that are affordable that allow you to do multiple things within that system, even change documents and write some different language and then have it show up, last person worked on, time worked on, changes made by, okay? Those are important. And then of course, templates for research. What do we want to find? What's important to us? How can we quickly organize the information in our mind, on our computer, however we do things? I tend to have double and triple check systems, from writing things down to putting them in a calendar to setting up reminders to using an online workspace that's shared. Time-saving tips. These are techniques for efficiency. Batch research tasks, weekly or monthly. Have a set time to do your grant research. And let me tell you something. Not everybody who has money to give away has a profile in a grant database, whether it's paid or free. You need to learn how to use Google, and you need to learn how to use whatever you're using proficiently in order to find what you're looking for. Use advanced search filters in your databases if they permit for you to use advanced searches. Drill it down more, put in more. delegate or share research responsibilities. In other words, I would do a research and then I would have a person on my team check behind me to make sure I hadn't missed any top potential funders if everything was there. And then I like to keep an Excel spreadsheet at that time with top prospects, everything about them. Who are they? Who's the contact person? Where are they located? What's the information to reach the contact person? Where's the LinkedIn profile link so that anybody can check on that link on my team and read information about who's making these decisions at the potential funders entity, as well as chances of getting funded. The database might tell you 98%, but if you drill down and you really look at everything that's out there and you start looking for the needle in the haystack, you may find out your chance is not 98%. It may be 45%, and that's a huge difference. Now you definitely need to know somebody at the funder to increase your chances of getting this particular proposal or application funded. So know the top prospects, know how to go through a back door, a closed door, and get information. Key takeaways. Summary. I hope that the time you spent with me, because it was fast and furious, has given you proven methods for efficient grant research, has provided practical criteria for evaluating opportunities, has given you some clues on how to avoid common research mistakes, and also shared with you the tools to streamline and organize your process. Questions and discussion. This is a great time to come back and do this. And you certainly can open your mic. We have a very small class here. What are your biggest grant research challenges, and how can we troubleshoot together?
I got a question.
Yes. Hi,
Hi,
Mary.
Dr. Hi.
Just Bev.
Just Bev. Okay, great. So I've been writing grants for about 2 years. I always ask for feedback when I get a grant denied. And I mean, maybe 20% of the time I get feedback. And even when I do, it oftentimes doesn't have any meat on the bone. It's, oh, well, they had so many applications, or, it's not anything that I can really act upon for next time. Do you have any good tips on number one, getting feedback out of organizations that say, oh, we don't have the capacity to respond to you, or we don't give feedback? And number two, any particular way you phrase things to get meaty feedback?
Once I get the pushback or the standard form generic response about, received so many requests, we just couldn't fund them all. We encourage you to apply again next year. I'm going to look for their Form 990 on Candid GuideStar or on taxworld.org. I want to know who they funded in the past, and I'm going to look up that organization. I'm going to search for them on the internet. I'm going to drill down who to speak to, from the CFO to the CEO, and I'm going to call and say, hey, I helped one of my clients apply to the Arizona Community Foundation, and we thought it was a good program. We talked to them in advance. We did not get funded, and I'm not getting a whole lot of feedback. How are you folks able to get a grant award from them? I'm curious. Did you know somebody ahead of time? How long have you known them? Did you have a referral? Was it a board-to-board event? Did you just do a cold request? I'm just trying to figure out, because I'm getting a lot of generic feedback and I want to know how to open this door. Where's the key? And I think your organization has the key because you got in, you got funded. So I need your help, please. And people will talk to you. They will tell you what they wrote. Sometimes they'll say, you know what? We focused on this only. We didn't have all these other components in our request, even though that was what they said they wanted to fund. And we got it. And we were one of the first ones awarded. Yeah, I can talk to you about it. I can give you a copy of our abstract. I'll be glad to do that. People are so kind and generous with information. You just go in with a humble behavior, a kind heart, kind words, not showing frustration, and they open up out of empathy and sympathy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm going to try it.
You're welcome. Thanks, Mary.
Hey, I've got a question too, Dr. Browning, Dr. Bev, sorry. That follows up on what Mary was just asking. Is it the same way with governmental grants? Because I write all over the country, in Arkansas, boy, Arkansas shuts me down. Can I see, it was a really good, I thought it was a really well-written grant. It had everything in place. And then they're like, no, thank you. And that's all I got.
In,
Is
Ar-
there any,
in Arkansas, you have to write the governor's office, chief of staff, and tell
okay.
them that you're having difficulty getting more specific feedback on why the application wasn't funded. I lived
Okay.
in Arkansas for 3 years.
Oh,
Everything
good.
there is either under the governor, or if it's at the county level, it's under the county judge. It's a very different
Gotcha.
system for
Okay.
who can open a door and who can't open a door there. So with that, go to the chief of staff for the current sitting governor, let them know your issue, that you would like to have more information and feedback to be successful, because what you are proposing makes a difference for many Arkansans who are
Gotcha.
not a part of the table of plenty.
Oh, okay. Very good. Because, yeah, you're right about that. Because I sent a letter about the governor controlling everything. I sent a thank you because one of their people really helped me a lot on, we got a 21st century grant. And I said, oh my gosh, Katie is awesome. Thank you so much. I just want to let you know because everybody complains and they don't thank and stuff like that. And she called me, I called me personally. I was like, oh my goodness. So I was shocked. So yes, thank you so much for that information.
You're welcome.
Oh, we have 30 seconds. Any other quick questions? All right. Well, let's everybody you can keep your things on. But a round of applause for Dr. Browning. We want to thank her for the wonderful information,
Thank you.
and thank you for attending, and all you guys who had to switch around because we had a little, her car stuff. We'll see Dr. Browning also, just so you guys know, tomorrow, and she's at the 1 o'clock Central Time slot later on with more stuff. So, thank you, everybody. We love you, Dr. Browning, and we will see everybody back.